And was there like a plan B in that moment in your life? Like, okay, if this doesn't work, I maybe.
I guess doing this wasn't plan A. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't think this was a possibility. Like to being at a level where I can do an arena. I would never. When I met my manager for the first time, we met in a TGI Fridays on Buchanan Street in Glasgow, and he had come up the night before to watch me play a gig in Dumfries in a venue called The Venue, supporting this band called the Mermaids. And the next day we sat down, we were having a drink, and he said to me, "What's your like goal?" And I said, "Oh, if I can play King Tut's, which is like a venue in Glasgow and thingy that's quite famous, which is you can maybe fit 350 people in it."
Okay.
I said, "If I can play that, I'll have been happy." That was my goal. That was my only goal, was to play King Tut's. It was never to do any of like have a number one single or have a top 10 somewhere or like, you know, play a show in America or Mexico or, you know, none of these things. I mean, I still haven't played the show in Mexico, so so that's one on the board. But yeah, no, it wouldn't. That was never. I never even thought it possible. So my plan A was to be like, yeah, just to do like covers, play in pubs and do covers gigs, or be a teacher, a music teacher of some form, or just do something. Making music would have been satisfactory. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this became. Getting, I guess, famous or whatever really took me by surprise. And people ask me now as well, like, when people come and ask me for advice, or like someone after a show, like a young person who's starting out in music or whatever, they'll be like, "How did you end up where you are? Or what should I do to get further in music or in the business side of things?" I'm like, I have no fucking idea, because I wasn't really paying attention the whole time. I just loved making music, so I just made music every day, and now I'm like here. That's the way I see it. Like I didn't really look up enough to be like, okay, this is, and maybe that's a bad thing, and maybe I should have been more paying more attention to things, but I just haven't. It's always just been, I've just loved playing music, and it wasn't ever. Getting to this point was never really the goal. I mean, now I'm very happy. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
This is like bigger than any dream I had. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is pretty spot on. But and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But this wasn't even plan A. So plan B was, I would have been fucked. But I think I didn't really have a plan B. Not because I was like, I'm sure I'm going to make it. It was just, I was too stupid to have a plan A.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, and I think that when you're put in a position where you get asked for advice, it's difficult to verbalize what has happened to you.
Yeah, of course.
Because you were simply flowing in one direction, and you were trying and making. And I can understand that. I don't know, that it's a really interesting experience, and I want to relate it to your album titles, because I think they reflect a bit of what we're talking about.
Yep.
Like your first album it's called Divinely Uninspired to a Hellish Extent, and then the second is Broken by Desire to be Heavenly Sent.
Yes,
that talks about like this. To me, it talks about like this. I don't want to say 1 in a million chance, because you work to it and you have a lot of talent and you definitely deserve. But it's a really interesting life that you live to get to a point where you are now, which started with you said in your documentary that your father had a vasectomy and you were born like unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Is that like the spirit of your album titles?
Yeah, I think so. I think the both of those album titles they're from a song that I wrote.
Okay.
That isn't out yet, and it hasn't been out. Well, I say I don't think it might not ever come out now. But like
both titles are from the same song.
So the lyrics of the song go, broken by desire to be heavenly sent, divinely uninspired to a hellish extent.
Okay.
And I wrote it.
I didn't realize it was a rhyme, but yeah, it is a rhyme.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I didn't. It's kind of just about. Especially, I always think broken by they kind of mean the same thing to me, but I think broken by desire to be heavenly sent was always just about like, wanting to be good at something so much that it's actually it's can be quite disheartening sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when I wrote the song that both of those lyrics come from, I was in a really like low point. I had released Bruises and it had done really well, and then I released a bunch of other stuff that had tapered off slightly, and I could feel like the record label sort of cooling, because when Bruises came out, it exploded and was crazy, and everyone was trying to sign us. And then I remember then a bunch of people,
you were the first unsigned artist to reach like 25 million plays on Spotify.
Yeah.
Was that with Bruises or?
That's Bruises, yeah, Bruises.
That was your first single, yeah.
First single, yeah, and it was really exciting. And then we released a bunch of other songs that maybe didn't reach the same heights as Bruises did. And I remember just being like really disheartened. I felt the record label sort of cooling off on us, and just people being less excited, and really like I had a taste of what it's like to sort of really be the flavor of the month and then not be the flavor of the month at all. Like, and really like from like early on in my career, which I'm now really glad happened. I feel I was getting to a point. I think I released a song called Tough, which I was like, this is the best song I've ever written, and if this doesn't go, then I fucked it, and this is it, it's done or whatever. Okay. And Tough came out, and it did nothing, and it didn't do the things I thought it was going to do. And you know, again, I really felt people cooling off, and you know, people just being slower to answer your calls, or not answering your calls, or not texting you back, or
yeah, not as excited maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Or moving on to something else. Or I remember we put on a show in London at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, and we sent out a bunch of like invites or requests to people in the industry, and like like reviewers and people from, you know, publications and magazines and all the rest of it. And I remember one of the responses to it, because someone showed me, I can't believe someone showed me this, but someone showed me like a spreadsheet basically of all the responses of who would be there, who wouldn't. And one of the people wrote back, "Oh yeah, the Lewis Capaldi thing. It feels like it's kind of been going around for a while. It doesn't feel like anything's going to happen, so I'm not going to come to the gig." And I remember reading that and being like,
why did they show you that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, who showed
before
you
the fucking gig? I'm like, yeah.
Thank you, man.
But I'm really glad I saw it, because I was like, oh fuck, this is it then. It's not going to work or whatever. And you have to remember, at that point, I'd only really been releasing music for a year, so it just shows you even how quickly people just switch off in the music industry. But I had put all that stuff out, and I'd really felt the cooling off, and then obviously wrote Someone You Loved, and things just blew up. And that's why I'm always a bit like, I sort of don't worry as much now if I put out a song and it doesn't do anything, or if it doesn't thingy, because you never fucking know when something's going to take off or not take off. But yeah, back to those thingies. Yeah, so basically I remember writing the song, writing those lyrics, and it was just about, I felt so disheartened by the music industry and everything that was going on, and people, just that feeling of like sort of a bit, I guess, sort of like a little bit of abandonment from people who had signed us and didn't back things up. Or there was some people out there who did stick by us and gave us, I think, but especially on the label side, because a lot of people who signed me left pretty quickly after, and I felt pretty low. And I wrote those lyrics. And it's funny as well, because the day I wrote that song, I also started writing, I've got a voice note on my phone somewhere of me writing the verse for Someone You Loved. Okay. On the same, like the guy who I wrote the song with went to the toilet, and I was sitting on and I was like, I'll just go to the piano, and I just wrote the and then I was like, okay, I'll recorded that. He came back in, we finished this song, and then I had that thing. So it's just it was like a really low point, but in that moment, like I got the new album titles, and they started writing Someone You Loved that day. So it was an interesting time.